Right everyone, it is Finn here and welcome to my Premier League Matchweek 2 predictions, where today we've got some absolutely gigantic games to talk about for this upcoming weekend. I mean, from Leicester City versus Arsenal to Chelsea versus Tottenham, Premier League Matchweek 2, it's going to be a big one. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, as it is a brand new Premier League season, I want to get you guys slightly more involved. So don't forget to put down in the comment section your predictions for the upcoming games. And of course, whoever is the most accurate with their predictions, I will put your comment in the next video. So of course, if you would like to get involved in these future videos, make sure to put your predictions down below. And of course, along with that, we are on the road to 10,000 subscribers. As mental as that does sound, it is a reality. So of course, every tiny bit of support towards that really is appreciated. But without wasting any more of your time and jumping into our first prediction, we start off with Aston Villa versus Everton, which are two teams that I feel like are in very similar boats at the moment. In fact, it's probably not a boat. It's kind of like a raft on a lava rapid, because looking at both of these two teams, heavily underwhelming last season, both lost their opening games this season, a lot of pressure on them, and improvement definitely is needed. Looking at Aston Villa though, losing 2-0 to Bournemouth in your opening game, it's inexcusable. Someone should have to spend time behind bars for something like that. Looking at Aston Villa, although I'm a Manchester United fan and I can't comment too much about what I'm going to say, I mean, new season, same old problems. Unfortunately, defensively, could not defend a cross to save their lives. Attacking wise, just not clinical enough, and Aston Villa could be in serious trouble this season if something doesn't change soon. Looking at them versus Everton, to be honest, I'm not actually sure I like Aston Villa's chances versus Everton, which I mean, that really is saying a lot. I do feel like for our first game of this match week, I am going to give Everton a 1-0 win. I mean, which once again, I feel like I shouldn't be able to say that. Looking at Everton, a 1-0 loss in their first game versus Chelsea isn't a bad result for them. I feel like defensively, although still have a very long way to go, there were some very big improvements for them. I think Tarkowski, in addition to their defense, was a major improvement for them. Obviously, they've just signed Wolverhampton Wanderers captain Conor Cody on a 1-year loan.
Hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right.
Which, once again, very bizarre to see. My brain's still trying to process that. I mean, imagine telling Everton fans a year ago that they would have a centre-back partnership of Conor Cody and Tarkowski. I don't think they would have believed you, but it is a very solid defence now, if Jordan Pickford doesn't decide to go for another walkabout.
Why are you running?
I feel like the only thing I am worried about here is Everton's attacking power. Obviously, Richarlison leaving the club and Dominic Calvert-Lewin once again being injured. I do feel like Everton really do need to get another striker option, but with some of the talent in their squad, I still feel like they could scrape a win. As I said, in terms of their attacking ability, it's just a bit of a grey area. Dare I say, a Damari grey area. But of course, moving to our second game, we have Arsenal versus Leicester City. Now, when looking at a game like this, I feel like it's always a very close fixture. But just looking at Arsenal, looking at how strong they look like as a team, the improvements they've made, and how strong they look like in their opening game, I do think, I'm sorry Leicester fans, it's going to be a 3-1 win. Look, I don't know whether Leicester City getting a 2-2 draw versus Brentford, I'm not sure if that was a good or a bad result for them. As we know, they've lost some major players, and by the time this match rolls around, the likes of Wesley Fofana might be a Chelsea player.
You were the chosen one! It was said that you would destroy this and not join them!
Leicester City, you guys need to pick up big time this transfer window, because at the moment I am seriously worried about you. Unfortunately, just not looking like the team that they should, and versus a very promising looking Arsenal team, I feel like Arsenal could turn this into a walkover. I mean, looking at this result as a whole, I mean, it's always kind of been a close fixture. In the last 10 games, only 1 draw, 4 Leicester wins and 5 Arsenal wins. I mean, on paper, it's a close game, but just looking at these two teams, I feel like the Gunners have to take it, as they do have a bit more firepower in the gun. Now, moving on to our next game, we have Brighton versus Newcastle United. Now, I mean, yes, Brighton won their first game versus Manchester United, but I mean, I'm a Manchester United fan. Even I have the ability to admit that it wasn't that Brighton were great. We were just kind of shit, to be honest with you. I mean, breaks my heart as a United fan, but looking at Brighton, they weren't fantastic in their first game. I mean, especially considering they lost the likes of Basuma for them to get a win versus United. Their first ever win at Old Trafford, by the way. I mean, they can be very, very proud of themselves. I think they did some great things. I feel like their strength in that game was to capitalize off of the opponent's defense, which versus Newcastle United, I feel like Newcastle United, I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this, compared to Man United, make less mistakes.
And there seems to be no sign of intelligent life anywhere.
Which is scary to say. In fact, looking at things statistically, Eddie Howe has won more points with Newcastle United since taking over the job than Manchester United have gotten points, which is a really, really scary stat. But of course, looking at Newcastle United, they were very, very comfortable in their first game versus Nottingham Forest, and I feel like they could snatch a 2-0 win here. I mean, confidence-wise in terms of attack and defense versus Forest, they looked very, very strong. They had, 62% possession, they had 25 shots, 10 on target, and if they can kind of carry on that kind of momentum versus Brighton, they could be a very, very dangerous team that we will have to keep our eyes out for. Now, moving on to our next game, we've got Manchester City versus Bournemouth. Now, I feel like I'm being pranked on a spy show or something. I mean, Bournemouth have just signed Barcelona goalkeeper Neto and Senesi, who a year ago, or just a few months ago, won a European trophy and was tossing between whether to choose Argentina or Italy to represent on a national level. I mean, how Bournemouth managed to get two players like that, once again, it's beyond me, considering how slow they were in the transfer market. But although two players like that are great additions to this Bournemouth team, at the end of the day, it's Manchester City. It will be a very comfortable win. I'm sorry, Bournemouth, I really tried to dig deep here, but I'm not sure I could find anything statistically about you ever beating Manchester City in your history. Look, maybe you guys at home, if you could do your research and find it somewhere, but I genuinely searched for a very long time, and I could never see Bournemouth beating City. And looking at City and how strong they looked versus West Ham United, I mean, at the end of the day, Man City, they just get stronger and stronger every single season. And Bournemouth, although I like your chances, although you are very, very good versus Aston Villa, and a lot of credit has to be given to you, I do think Man City, they should walk this over. And I mean, in terms of, I know I haven't done this for all the teams, but in terms of a player to watch, it just has to be Erling Haaland. I'm not even talking about the game. I'm just talking about the match interview. That thing was amazing.
A bit shit, but that's how it is. Steady with the language.
But now, jumping into our next game, we've got Southampton versus Leeds United. Now, of course, I will admit the commentator for Southampton versus Tottenham Hotspurs did get slightly too excited for my comfort.
Hojbjerg's been doing this in pre-season, dropping those balls.
I don't know. I think that's a bit dodgy, mate.
But of course, looking at Southampton versus Leeds United, I do feel like I have to give this one to Leeds United, and I am going to give a 2-0 win. Obviously, looking at Leeds, getting a win versus Wolves in their first game is a very, very good result for them. Obviously, in terms of the way they played, they had a very, very comfortable game, and they looked like they could seriously improve off of last season. Although they've lost big names, they've brought in some other big names, and we could really be impressed by them. Looking at Southampton, once again, I mean, for them not to change any defensively off of last season and expect improvements, I mean, unfortunately, it is just delusional, and they are going to have to make some defensive kind of pickups. Obviously, a 4-1 loss to Spurs in their opening game, it just didn't look promising at all. And I mean, even versus Leeds United, I don't know if I like Southampton's chances. They need to improve defensively, they need to improve midfield-wise, attacking-wise, everything. This team really is struggling at the moment, and I do think Leeds United have the ability to take all 3 points, and dare I say, are the favourites here. Moving on, talking about the team who just played Leeds United, we have Wolverhampton Wanderers versus Fulham, which, as I said, Wolverhampton Wanderers could be in a lot of trouble this season. I don't know what they're thinking in terms of losing Conor Cody, their captain, and dare I say, outright best centre-back. I mean, it's not even a shock. Their best centre-back to Everton. And of course, on top of that, losing Roman Saiz to Besiktas, their two main centre-backs out of the club at the moment. Wolves defensively will struggle this season, although they've brought in one or two great attacking players like Guedes from Valencia. I feel like he could be a really promising player, getting Gibbs White back in the squad. Wolves could have a very good attacking season, but defensively, as I said, once again, They've just lost way too many great players, and versus a Fulham team that have just drawn to Community Shield winners Liverpool, once again, it could be a very ugly result for them, but I do feel like this could go down as a 2-2 draw. As I said, Wolves, really disappointing in your previous game, and Fulham, a very strong start for you guys. I mean, I have to apologize. I am so sorry for anything bad I've ever said about Alexander Mitrovic. That man had an absolutely brilliant season. I mean, or start to the season. He dribbled past Virgil van Dijk, which, I mean, for a defender who'd never been dribbled around in his like 2-3 years in the Premier League, I mean, he'll dribbled around so much he might have as well been a dog's chew toy.
That was uncalled for, Judith.
I mean, Mitrovic, what a start for him. Looking at Fulham, once again, they've built quite a good squad. They have potential to stay in the Premier League, and points versus Wolves really will prove whether they deserve to be in the Prem. Now, moving on, we've got Brentford versus Manchester United, which, once again, I'm a Manchester United fan. It was a disappointing game, to say the least. To lose to Brighton, the first ever loss we had to Brighton at Old Trafford in our history. Once again, I feel like every single season we break some sort of unwanted record versus a team. Whether it be, oh, we lost for the first time to Crystal Palace at Old Trafford or something like that. I feel like it happens every single season, and it's sad. I'm terrified we lose to Brentford because there was no redeeming factor versus Brighton. It was heavily underwhelming, and as I said, I wouldn't be surprised if we lost points versus Brentford. I mean, in terms of our history versus them, I mean, we have won both of the 2 games we played against them, a 3-0 win and a 3-1 win. So, I mean, everything should be in our favor. But once again, as a United fan, you know you can't really say that. I think heading into this, though, I do think United, dare I say, should get a win here. I am going to put forward a 2-1 win in terms of clean sheets. It's been a while since I've seen that from United, so I'm not going to predict it. Obviously, looking at Brentford, drew 2-2 with Leicester City. They did come back from a 2-0 loss, obviously, to get that comeback. Very impressive result from them. They still have a very strong team. But once again, Man United, with the quality players in your squad, I think you guys will get a bit of a scare from that first result. I feel like Erik ten Hag will make changes, the correct changes for this team. And I do think United should get a win. Otherwise, other than that, I do feel like Erik ten Hag, once again, it's kind of a losing battle, this Manchester United job. I mean, what's it been, 10 years now since Sir Alex Ferguson? I don't know what it is, but no matter who Manchester United brings in, it just seems to get worse and worse, and it's scary, to be honest. Considering beginning of the season, I said to everyone, surely it can't get worse than last season.
Challenge accepted.
But moving on, now we have Nottingham Forest versus West Ham United. Now, of course, this prediction video I am doing by myself as I couldn't get a guest on time. Obviously, last week I filmed with Max. It was a very fun video. But of course, as a Nottingham Forest fan, I'm sure he wouldn't be too happy with this week's results. Obviously, they lost 2-0 to Newcastle United, which I hate to say it, but they were absolutely dominated. I mean, I really was hoping from a tiny bit more, but they are brand new back to the Premier League. We do have to give them some sort of time. But looking at them in terms of their numbers, both defensively and attacking wise, versus a team like West Ham United, I can only see West Ham United winning this one. And I am going to put down a 2-0 win. I obviously think, although I haven't done it for every game once again, a player that you do have to keep your eyes out for is going to be Maxwell Cornet. The fact that West Ham United got such a brilliant winger from Burnley, once again, he's one of those players who could drive West Ham United to a European spot. And I mean, I think he could be a huge part of the reason to winning the Conference League this upcoming season. West Ham United have seriously built themselves a good squad, although they had a very poor start versus Manchester City. I mean, at the end of the day, it is Manchester City. What can you expect from them? Probably the best team in the world now at the moment. Now, moving on to our second last game, we've got Chelsea versus Tottenham Hotspurs. Now, of course, looking at this game, it is absolutely massive. Both of these teams will be pushing for a Champions League spot, and this could really be the divider. This could really be the difference in terms of who makes that Champions League spot. Looking at Chelsea, obviously only winning their first game 1-0 versus Everton, which as a score, only being a penalty win, doesn't look great. But actually analysing and looking at the game, watching the game, Chelsea were not bad. They could have won that game by a lot more. Defensively, they were very solid, had very promising moments. Their new signings looked very good. Cucurella looked to be a brilliant option. Raheem the Dream Sterling, once again, as we know, absolutely brilliant. I don't know whether Chelsea just doesn't have a homely feel, as both Lukaku and Timo Werner have both returned home to their ET situations. So of course Chelsea at the moment very much without a striker, unless you're going to consider the likes of Broja, who could surprise us. But of course, looking at Chelsea, even without a striker option, looking at the way that they played versus Everton, they looked very, very promising. Looking at Tottenham Hotspurs, obviously currently top of the Premier League with a massive 4-1 win versus Southampton, which I will say this, the goal they did concede, I was very worried about because it was very much a same old problem for Tottenham Hotspurs. It was a very sloppy goal to concede, which you would have hoped they would have sorted out by this stage already under Antonio Conte. But of course, looking at these two teams, it could be a very, very massive fixture. Obviously, it's going to be a game that neither of these two teams will want to lose. I do feel like it will be a close one. And at the end of the day, I feel like I might put a 3-2 win in Chelsea's favour. As I said, I do feel like the result, that 1-0 win versus Everton, was kind of unfair. I feel like they could have won it by a lot more. And I feel like they are going to prove their strengths this time around. And it is going to be a battle for the ages. But ladies and gentlemen, that takes us to our final game of the match week. Liverpool versus Crystal Palace. Now, of course, looking at Liverpool drawing to, once again, Fulham, not a promising start for them.
You don't find it easy anymore. There's no, the pitch was dry.
Versus Crystal Palace, who obviously lost 2-0 to Arsenal. Once again, looking at Crystal Palace, dare I say, non-existent in that Arsenal game, at least not until the second half. That's kind of more where they picked up. But obviously, looking at Crystal Palace versus Liverpool, we've seen fixtures in the past where Crystal Palace have caused a few upsets. Obviously, looking though, in terms of results, it's just all Liverpool. I mean, it really is just the Red Sea, if you just look at things. Obviously, as I said, looking at Crystal Palace losing their first game versus Arsenal, looking at Liverpool, although not a good first game, we can't write off Liverpool just because of one game. You are going to have to give them the results, and I do feel like this is where Liverpool really do show their strengths, and they're going to get a massive 3-0 win. Once again, as I said, they didn't win their first game, but we know how good Liverpool truly can be, and I do feel like this is where they will switch on. But ladies and gentlemen, that is it for my Premier League Match Week 2 predictions. As I said, don't forget to put your predictions down below if you do want to feature in my next video, and of course, do tell me whether you disagree with anything I said in this video. Once again, it is absolutely brilliant to have the Premier League back. Once again, as a Manchester United fan, I'm not in the happiest of places at the moment. But once again, it's just good to have some sort of football back. Once again, it's entertaining, it's fun. Let's be honest, I think everyone here will admit that they missed football. But guys, I hope that you did enjoy this video. Don't forget to like down below. Don't forget to subscribe to help on the road to 10,000 subscribers. But this has been fun. FYNN. Until next time, cheers.